Hello friends, today we are going to discuss about anti-thyroid drugs, or we can say thyroid inhibitors. These drugs are used to lower the activity of hyperactive thyroid gland. In this lecture we will learn about the classification of the drugs. Then in each class we will discuss mechanism of action, their therapeutic uses, adverse effects and their drug interaction. And then we will discuss about the management of thyroid storm. Antithyroid drugs, if we classify, they are classified as synthesis inhibitors like say thioamides, ionic inhibitors like thiocyanate, perchlorates, release inhibitors that are iodides and iodine, tissue destroying agents like radioactive iodine, and others that are beta adenoreceptor blocking agents, diltiazem, dexamethasone, etc. In this image, you can see the different thyroid inhibitors are acting at their site of action, like say iodide and thioamides. They inhibit the conversion, or we can say the coupling. Then iodides also inhibits the proteolysis. Radiocontrast media, beta blockers, corticosteroids, they all inhibits the peripheral conversion of T4 to T3, while thiocyanate perchlorates, they inhibit the iodine transport. Other drugs are there that can cause hypothyroidism if given in the excess amount, like say lithium, amiodarone, paraminosylicylic acid, phenylbutazone, iodide, cobalt salt, and resorcinol. But all these drugs' effects are reversible on withdrawal. Starting with thioamides, methimazole, propylthiouracil, and carbimazole are thioamide agents. If we talk about the mechanism of action, thioamides bind to the thyroid peroxidase enzyme and prevents the oxidation of iodide and iodotyrosyl residues. And they inhibit synthesis by acting against iodide organification and also inhibit coupling of iodotyrosyl residues to form T3 and T4. Propylthiouracil additionally blocks the conversion of T4 to T3. Effect of these drugs is seen when the hormone content is depleted. Pharmacokinetics of thiamide. These drugs are almost completely absorbed in the GI tract and also concentrated in the thyroid gland and all over the body. Plasma half-life of propylthiouracil is 90 minutes and that of methimazole is about 6 hours. These drugs are getting metabolized and the metabolites are excreted in the urine, that of propylthiouracil within 24 hours and methimazole about 48 hours. Both the drugs can cross placental barrier but lesser with propylthiouracil. Carbimazole is mainly act by converting into methimazole, which is 10 times more potent than propylthiouracil. Propylthiouracil is a more protein-bound drug as compared to the methimazole and carbimazole. If we see the difference between propylthiouracil and carbimazole, propylthiouracil dose to dose less potent while carbimazole is about 5 times more potent. Propylthiouracil is highly plasma protein bound agent while carbimazole is less bound. Propylthiouracil can be less transferred across the placental barrier as well as not secreted in the milk, while larger amounts of carbimazole crosses to the fetus and in the secreted in the milk. Plasma half-life of propylthiouracil is 1 to 2 hours, while that of carbimazole is about 6 to 10 hours. The single dose of propylthiouracil acts for about 4 to 8 hours, while carbimazole converted into the methimazole, and because of that it acts somewhat longer, that is about 12 to 24 hours. Propylthiouracil does not have any active metabolite while carbimazole produces active metabolite, that is methimazole. Propylthiouracil, the multiple daily dose required because of the shorter plasma half-life. While because of the longer half-life, carbimazole is given single daily dose. Propylthiouracil additionally inhibits the peripheral conversion of T4 to T3, while carbimazole does not inhibit T4 to T3 conversion. Adverse effect of thiamides. Hypothyroidism and goiter can occur due to overtreatment, but this is reversible on stopping the drug. Other important side effects are maculopapular rash, benign transient leukopenia, agranulocytosis, which is a rare but serious adverse effect. Hepatitis may occur with propylthiouracil, while cholestatic jaundice may occur with methimazole. Vasculitis, lupus-like syndrome, loss of taste, loss of hair, and fever-like side effects are infrequent. For adverse effect of the thioamides, patients are advised to stop the drugs if symptoms of sore throat, fever, mouth ulcer develop, and leukocyte count should be performed. If agranulocytosis develops, drug should be withdrawn, patient should be hospitalized, and according to that, broad spectrum antimicrobial agent plus granulocyte colony stimulating factor should be given. Therapeutic uses of thioamides. Antithyroid drugs, they control thyrotoxicosis in both Graves' disease as well as in the toxic nodular goiter. They are given as definitive therapy in the conditions, and remission may occur up to half of the patients of the Graves' disease within 1 to 2 years of treatment, and then drug can be withdrawn. If the symptoms occurs again, then the drug should be reinstituted. The remissions are rare in toxic nodular goiter. Preoperatively, it is given in young patients with the hyperactive thyroidism and substantial goiter, and it is made euthyroid with help of carbimazole before performing subtotal thyroidectomy. It is also given along with the radioactive iodine 131. Here, uh, initial control with the antithyroid drug, mainly propylthiouracil, is given, and then 1 to 2 weeks gap. After 1 to 2 weeks gap, radioactive iodine is given, and then the antithyroid drug should be resumed after 5 to 7 days, and then it is gradually withdrawn over 3 months as the response to the radioactive iodine develops. And this approach is preferred in the older patient and in those with the heart disease who are to be treated with radioactive iodine, but it requires prompt control of severe hyperthyroidism. This will also prevent initial disease flare-up following radioactive iodine due to release of stored T4. If we talk about the advantages of these thiamide drugs, we can say that the drug is given orally, so there is no surgical risk, no scar, and there is no chance of injury to recurrent laryngeal nerve. Also, with the doses, if hypothyroidism develops, the drug should be stopped, then it is reversible, and it is safe in child as well as in the young and adults. Disadvantages is the relapse rate after the drug is withdrawn. Relapse rate is high, and they may require lifelong treatment, and the drug's toxicity may be the one of the disadvantages. In the pregnancy, the propylthiouracil is preferred as compared to the carbimazole because it is less uh, crosses the placental barrier as compared to the carbimazole. Second group is ionic inhibitors, that are thiocyanate, perchlorates, and nitrates. They inhibit iodide trapping with sodium iodide transporter and also inhibit iodination. But these ions are too toxic, and because of that they are not used nowadays. Radioactive iodine. Radioactive isotope is iodine 131 and the stable isotope is iodine 127. If we talk about the mechanism, iodine 131 is it emits gamma rays as well as beta particles. When it is given orally, iodine 131 is concentrated by the thyroid gland and incorporated into the colloid, and here it emits the radiation from within. So within the follicle. So it is trapped within the glands and enter the intracellularly and delivers the strong beta radiation, or we can say beta particles. They penetrate only 0.5 to 2 mm of tissue and they destroy the follicular cells. The thyroid follicular cells are affected from within. They under, undergo pycnosis and necrosis, which is followed by the fibrosis when a sufficiently large amount has been administered. Here, without damaging to the side by tissues. So, the selection of doses should be carefully done. If we talk about the clinical uses, the most common indication is hyperthyroidism, that is because of either Graves' disease or toxic nodular goiter, and as well as it is also used in primarily inoperable thyroid carcinoma. For radioactive iodine administered as sodium salt of 131 iodine, that is dissolved in water, and it is given orally. As I have said, the adequate dose should be calculated. So factors to attain adequate dose are maximum amount of radioactive iodine that is taken up by the gland, size and amount of tissue to be irradiated, effective half-life of the isotope, and relative sensitivity of the thyroid to the drug. Thiamide should be given initially and stopped 3 days prior to radioactive iodine administration. Radioactive iodine dosage generally ranges between 3 to 6 microcurie and it is repeated if needed. The advantages of radioactive iodine is, as it is given orally, it is simple, convenient, and the treatment is OPD based. There is no surgical risk, so no scar and no chances of injury to recurrent laryngeal nerve. If the cure develops, it remains permanent. But the disadvantage is because of excess tissue damage. If hypothyroidism is there, it is permanent. And the radioactive iodine response is delayed. The treatment is contraindicated in the pregnancy as well as it is not suitable in the young patient. Inorganic iodides are the major antithyroids before the introduction of thioamides. The preparations that were used are strong iodine solution, that is also known as glucose iodine, potassium iodide, and iodone. Inorganic iodines, they acutely blocks the release of thyroid hormone from the gland by inhibiting the thyroglobulin proteolysis and also inhibit the iodide organification. Here you can see the iodides inhibits the proteolysis and inhibits the release of T4 and T3. So the most important action is inhibition of the hormone release. That term used for that is thyroid constipation. Inorganic iodines are useful in thyroid storms and it is given for about 2 to 7 days. It is given pre-operatively because it decreases the vascularity of the gland, it reduces the size and fragility of hypoplastic gland. It is used for prophylaxis of endemic goiter as well as it is also used as an antiseptic agent. It may delay the onset of thiamide effects, so should be given after the initiation of effect of thiamides. Its peak effect occurs at 10 to 15 days and after that the gland will escape from the inhibition and thyroid escape occurs and the thyrotoxicosis may return with the great response and worsening of hyperthyroidism occurs especially in the multinodular goiter. Adverse effect, acute reaction that occurs only in rare patients which are sensitive to the iodine and it can be triggered by even a small quantity. The symptoms are seen, that is swelling of lips, eyelids, laryngoedema, fever, joint pain, petechial hemorrhages, thrombocytopenia and lymphadenopathy. And so the further exposure to iodine should be stopped immediately. In the chronic overdose, iodism can be take place. That is, the inflammation of mucous membrane lead to salivation, rhinorrhea, sneezing, lacrimation, swelling of eyelids, headache, rashes, and GI symptoms. Here, iodide should be stopped, and hypothyroidism and goiter may occur with the high doses. Flaring of acne can be there, and fetal or infantile hypothyroidism and goiter can be there if it is given to the pregnant woman. Other agents are beta blockers. Beta blockers you have already learned. The drugs are propranolol, metoprolol, and atenolol-like drugs. The mechanism of action is they have membrane stabilizing action and they inhibit the conversion of T4 to T3 in periphery, and they ameliorate many disturbing signs and symptoms of hyperthyroidism secondary to increased circulatory catecholamines by blocking the beta receptors at different sites. So the indication of beta blocker is Graves' disease as well as in the thyroid storm. Thyroid storm is a life-threatening emergency. The large amount of hormone is into the circulation occurs in untreated or in incompletely treated patient of hyperthyroidism. It is precipitated by infection, trauma, and toxemia of pregnancy. Treatment of thyroid storm. The beta blockers, like say propranolol, they give symptomatic relief. In addition, higher doses reduces peripheral conversion of T4 to T3. So propranolol 1 to 2 milligrams low intravenously may be followed by 40 to 80 milligram orally every 6 hours, and then it may be withdrawn gradually when the T4 level get normal. Then the propylthiouracil 200 to 300 milligram orally 6 hourly. It also reduces the hormone synthesis as well as the peripheral conversion of T4 to T3. Iopanoic acid or iodate are iodine containing radio contrast media, and they are also potent inhibitors of thyroid hormone release from the thyroid gland, as well as they also inhibit the peripheral T4 to T3 conversion. The corticosteroids like say hydrocortisone 100 mg IV 8 hourly followed by oral prednisolone, they help to tide over the crisis and cover any adrenal insufficiency and reduce conversion of T4 to T3 in periphery. Diltiazem 60 to 120 mg BD oral may be added if tachycardia is not controlled by the propranolol alone or when propranolol is contraindicated. The other measures that will be taken care of is rehydration, anxiolytic agents, external cooling, as well as the required antibiotics. So that is all about the thyroid inhibitors. Thank you.